For 4 years, the golf world has been divided. The PGA Tour versus LIV Golf. Loyalists versus defectors. Tradition versus money. The war has been brutal. Friendships have ended. Lawsuits have been filed. Reputations have been destroyed. But now, something unexpected is happening. The tide may be turning. According to multiple sources, several of the biggest names who left for LIV Golf are considering a return to the PGA Tour. Not next year. Not after their contracts expire. Now. The golf world is in shock. Why now? What changed? Is LIV Golf collapsing? Are the players having second thoughts? Or is something else going on? The answers are complicated. The implications are enormous. The sport may finally be healing. Or it may be about to explode again. Buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The rumors started with a whisper. A trusted insider mentioned that a prominent LIV player had reached out to the PGA Tour about a possible return. Then another name surfaced. Then another. Soon, the whispers became a roar. Multiple sources are now confirming that several big-name LIV golfers are in talks with the PGA Tour. The discussions are preliminary. Nothing is finalized. But the fact that they are happening at all is a seismic shift. The players involved are not the fringe names who were struggling on the PGA Tour before they left. These are major champions. These are fan favorites. These are players who were supposed to be the future of LIV Golf. Their potential return would be a massive blow to the Saudi-backed league and a huge victory for the PGA Tour. So why now? What has changed? The most obvious answer is money. LIV Golf's financial future is uncertain. Reports have emerged that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is reconsidering its commitment. The fund has lost over $2 billion on LIV. It has not seen a return on its investment. It is losing patience. If the funding dries up, the players' contracts could become worthless. They would be left with nothing. But money is not the only factor. The players are also missing the competition. LIV Golf events are fun. The team format is entertaining. The crowds are lively. But the competition is not the same. The fields are weaker. The stakes are lower. The pressure is less. The players miss the thrill of competing against the best in the world. They miss the majors. They miss the history. The PGA Tour has also changed its stance. For years, the Tour refused to even discuss the possibility of LIV players returning. The message was clear. You made your choice. Now live with it. But the Tour has softened. Officials have realized that the sport needs its best players together. The ratings are declining. The fan interest is waning. The return of the LIV stars could revitalize the product. The legal landscape has also shifted. The lawsuits between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf have been settled. The animosity has cooled. The two sides are no longer at war. That makes it easier for players to consider a return. They are less likely to be caught in the middle of a legal battle. The players themselves have changed. They have had time to reflect. They have seen the consequences of their decisions. Some regret leaving. They miss their friends. They miss the traditions. They miss being part of the PGA Tour family. They are ready to come home. The PGA Tour is preparing for the possibility. Officials have been meeting with lawyers. They have been discussing reinstatement procedures. They have been considering how to handle the return of players who left. The Tour wants to be fair, but it also wants to send a message. Defection has consequences. Those consequences will not be ignored. The golf world is watching closely. The return of big names to the PGA Tour would be the biggest story in golf history. It would heal divisions. It would bring fans together. It would make the sport stronger. But it would also be complicated. Not everyone wants the defectors back. Some fans feel betrayed. Some players feel angry. To understand why big names may come back to the PGA Tour, we need to look at the specific players and their situations. Each player has different motivations. Each player faces different obstacles. But they all share one thing: uncertainty about the future. Let us start with the biggest name of all, Phil Mickelson. He was the first major star to defect. He was the most vocal defender of LIV Golf. He called the PGA Tour a dictatorship. He praised the Saudis for changing the game. His return would be the most dramatic, but it would also be the most complicated. He is 55 years old. He has not played well in years. His body is breaking down. He may not have much left to give, but he still has star power. He still moves the needle. The PGA Tour would welcome him back for the attention alone. Then there is Bryson DeChambeau. He was the future of LIV Golf. He was young, he was talented, he was marketable. He was supposed to be the face of the league for years to come. But his relationship with LIV has soured. He has hinted at starting his own league. He has hinted at returning to the PGA Tour. He is unpredictable. That makes him dangerous. The PGA Tour would love to have him back. He brings excitement. He brings drama. He brings viewers. Jon Rahm is another big name. He left the PGA Tour at the peak of his powers. He was the reigning Masters champion. He was ranked number 3 in the world. His defection was a massive blow. His return would be equally massive. He is still young. He is still talented. He could compete for majors for another decade. The PGA Tour would welcome him with open arms, but he would have to serve a suspension. He would have to repay his signing bonus. He would have to apologize. Would he be willing to do that? Brooks Koepka is a wild card. He has won 5 majors. He has nothing left to prove. He left for LIV because he was frustrated with the PGA Tour. He felt disrespected. He felt underappreciated. He has found happiness on LIV. He may not want to come back, but if the money dries up, he may have no choice. He is 35 years old. He still has years of golf left. He would be a valuable addition to any tour. Dustin Johnson is another name. He was the first big star to join LIV. He was the face of the league in its early days. But he has been quiet recently. He has not been winning. He has not been in the headlines. He may be ready for a change. He may be ready to come home. Each of these players faces a different calculation. They have to weigh the money against the competition. They have to weigh the freedom against the tradition. They have to weigh the short term against the long term. There is no right answer. There is only the answer that feels right to them. The PGA Tour is ready to negotiate. Officials have been meeting with player agents. They have been discussing terms. The tour is willing to be flexible, but it is not willing to be weak. The players who left will have to pay a price. That price is still being determined. The reaction to the news that big names may return to the PGA Tour has been swift and intense. The golf world is divided. Fans, players, and pundits have all taken sides. The debate has spilled beyond golf into mainstream media. Everyone has an opinion, and no one agrees. Let us start with the fans. A poll conducted by Golfix asked, should LIV players be allowed to return to the PGA Tour? The results were surprisingly close. 51% said yes, 42% said no, 7% were unsure. The yes voters argued that the sport needs its best players together. They miss watching the LIV stars compete against Scheffler and McIlroy. The no voters argued that the defectors made their choice. They should live with the consequences. The players have been more divided. Some are open to the return of their former colleagues. I miss those guys, one player told Golfix. We grew up together. We competed together. I would love to compete against them again. Others are less forgiving. They left us for money, another player said. They said terrible things about the tour. They don't get to just come back like nothing happened. The PGA Tour has not commented officially, but behind the scenes, officials are preparing. They know that the return of LIV players is inevitable. They want to control the narrative. They want to announce the reinstatement process on their own terms. It will be strict. It will be public. It will be controversial. LIV Golf has also not commented, but sources say that league officials are panicking. They spent billions to build their roster. They cannot afford to lose their biggest names. They are scrambling to find ways to keep their players happy. More money, more perks, more promises. But money may not be enough. The players want stability. They want a future. LIV cannot guarantee either. The media has been in overdrive. Every golf outlet has published a story. Every podcast has dedicated an episode. Every television show has booked guests. The consensus is that the return of LIV players is a matter of time. The only question is when and under what terms. The most interesting reaction came from Tiger Woods. Woods was asked about the possibility of LIV players returning. The tour has rules, he said. Those rules apply to everyone. If the rules are followed, I have no problem with anyone coming back, but the rules must be followed. That was diplomatic. Woods did not endorse the returns, but he did not oppose them either. The sponsors are also watching. They want the best players on the PGA Tour. They want the drama. They want the excitement. The return of LIV stars would be good for business. Sponsors would pay more for television, ads. They would pay more for tournament sponsorships. They would benefit from the increased attention. The golf world is on edge. The return of big names to the PGA Tour would be the biggest story in golf history. It would heal divisions. It would bring fans together. It would make the sport stronger. But it would also be complicated. Not everyone wants the defectors back. The debate is just beginning. What would the return of LIV players to the PGA Tour actually look like? The process would be complicated. The negotiations would be intense. The outcomes would be uncertain. Let us examine the most likely scenarios. First, the PGA Tour would announce a formal reinstatement process. The process would apply to all players who left for LIV. It would include a suspension period. The length of the suspension would depend on how long the player was away and how they conducted themselves during that time. Players who were vocal in their criticism of the tour would face longer suspensions. Players who kept their heads down would face shorter ones. Second, the players would have to repay a portion of their LIV signing bonuses. The money would go to charity. The amount would be negotiated individually. Players who signed larger bonuses would pay more. Players who signed smaller bonuses would pay less. The tour would be flexible, but it would not be weak. Third, the players would have to issue a public apology. They would have to express regret for their decisions. They would have to acknowledge that they made mistakes. They would have to promise to be better ambassadors for the game. The apologies would be carefully scripted. The tour would approve them before they were released. Fourth, the players would have to earn their way back into the tour's good graces. They would have to play well. They would have to behave well. They would have to rebuild relationships. Trust would not be given. It would have to be earned. Fifth, the tour would have to manage the reaction of the players who stayed. Those players feel betrayed. They feel angry. They feel that the defectors are being treated too leniently. The tour would have to find ways to make them feel valued. Increased prize money, more input on decisions, special recognition. The tour cannot afford to alienate its core membership. The return of LIV players would not happen overnight. It would take months. It would take negotiations. It would take compromise. But it would happen eventually. The forces pushing for reunification are too strong. The fans want it. The sponsors want it. The networks want it. The tour wants it. The players want it. Everyone wants the war to end. The biggest obstacle is pride. The players who left do not want to admit they were wrong. The players who stayed do not want to admit they were jealous. The tour does not want to admit that it mishandled the crisis. Pride is a powerful force. It can prevent progress. It can keep wounds open. It can prolong the pain. But pride can also be set aside. It can be overcome. It can be replaced by a desire for something greater. The golf world has an opportunity to heal. The return of big names to the PGA Tour would be the first step. It would not solve everything, but it would be a start. The next few months will be crucial. The LIV Golf funding crisis will come to a head. The players will have to make decisions. The tour will have to respond. The golf world will be watching. The future of the sport hangs in the balance. So what happens next? The possibility of big names returning to the PGA Tour is no longer a fantasy. It is a real possibility. The golf world is in shock. The negotiations are underway. The clock is ticking. Let us examine 3 possible outcomes. Outcome 1. Several big names return. Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, and Jon Rahm announced that they are coming back to the PGA Tour. They serve their suspensions. They repay their bonuses. They issue their apologies. The golf world celebrates. The war is over. The sport is united. This is the best-case scenario. It is also the most likely outcome. 2. Only a few return. Some players decide to stay with LIV Golf. They hope that the league will survive. They hope that the Saudi money will continue. They are not ready to admit defeat. The golf world remains divided. The war continues. This is a possible scenario. It is also the saddest outcome. 3. No one returns. The players all stay with LIV. The Saudis continue funding the league. The 2 tours remain separate. The golf world remains divided. The fans remain frustrated. This is the worst-case scenario. It is also the least likely. The forces pushing for reunification are too strong. Which outcome will occur? According to sources close to the negotiations, outcome 1 is the current frontrunner. The players want to come back, a source told Golfix. They miss the PGA Tour. They miss the competition. They miss the fans. The money is great, but money is not everything. They are ready to come home. The PGA Tour is ready to welcome them. Officials have been preparing for this moment. They have a plan. They have a timeline. They have a message. The tour wants to be seen as the victor, but it also wants to be seen as gracious. It will not humiliate the returning players. It will not gloat. It will simply open the door. The returning players will have to swallow their pride. They will have to admit that they made a mistake. They will have to face the criticism. They will have to earn back the trust. It will not be easy, but nothing worth doing is easy. The fans will have to decide how to react. Some will welcome the players back with open arms. Others will boo them. Others will pretend they never left. The reactions will vary. The emotions will be raw. The healing will take time. The golf world is about to change. The big names may come back to the PGA Tour. The war may finally be over. The sport may finally be united. It is a moment of hope. It is a moment of possibility. It is a moment that no one saw coming. Golf shocker. Big names may come back to the PGA Tour. Why now? Because the time is right. Because the money is uncertain. Because the players miss the competition. Because the fans miss the players. Because the sport needs to heal. That is why now. And that is why the golf world is watching. 4. More coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.